Grown woman finally learns why her mother always wore makeup to bed. Wearing makeup has become the norm in our society. Women from all over the world enhance their beauty with a touch of lipstick, mascara, eyeshadow, foundation, and other makeup products. Once the day's over, ladies then remove their makeup and allow their skin to breathe during the night. One woman, however, would never remove her makeup, even before going to bed. She would sleep with the same makeup on that she wore during the day. Her strange habits had always mystified her daughter. After asking her mother several times why she never removed her makeup and not getting an answer, she decided to dig into her past. What the woman had discovered about her mother shocked her to the core. Gail Lukasick's past. Gail Lukasick had always looked up to her mother, Alvaro Ritz. She was a stunningly beautiful woman. She met Gail's father, Harold, during World War II, and the pair had been inseparable since. The man thought he knew everything about his wife, but as it turns out, she'd been hiding a dark secret from everyone, including her own family. Good match. Alvaro Rita fell in love with Harold's sense of humor and his joyful personality. When she met her future husband, he was serving in the Pacific. There was an instant connection between the pair. Both of them knew they wanted to spend the rest of their lives together. Little did Harold know at the time how big of a mistake he was about to make. After the war. In 1944, after World War II, the couple got married and settled in a working-class neighborhood in Parma, Ohio. 2 years after, Alvaro gave birth to their daughter, Gail. Gail's childhood. Gail had a seemingly normal childhood. She was raised by two loving parents who spent a lot of time with her. However, at times, Gail felt mystified by her mother's strange behavior. Her mother's habits. While growing up, Gail noticed some odd things that her mother would do on a regular basis. Gail tried asking her many times why she was behaving the way she did, but her mother would never give her a clear answer. However, there was one thing that bothered Gail the most about her mother: always wearing makeup. Gail's mother was very meticulous about her makeup. She'd wear a light foundation to bed every night. Initially, Gail thought it was very strange. She asked her why she was always wearing makeup, even during the night, and her mother said, "Well, Gail, you never know when you're going to get sick. What if, in the middle of the night, the ambulance would come? You always want to look your best because you'd get treated better at the hospital." But what she discovered next about her mother was even more inexplicable. Afraid of the sun. Gail's mother would never go out in the sun unless she had a hat on. Also, the woman would always cover her hands with gloves, no matter what time of year it was. She disliked being in the sun and avoided it at all costs. But what mystified Gail the most was the way her mother talked about her own family. Alvaro Rita's parents. Gail never met her grandfather, Azamar Frederick. She was always curious about him and couldn't understand why her mother wouldn't allow them to meet. All she could do was ask her some questions about her grandfather. However, her mother's responses were always strange and brief. Azamar Frederick. Gail asked her mother when her grandfather was born. When did he die? She would always say, "Oh, I don't know," or "I can't remember." Gail thought it was very odd that she couldn't remember anything about her own father. Confused and doubtful. Not only did she never meet her grandfather, but Gail also never saw any photos of him. Gail was confused. Something was telling her to dig deeper. And finally, after several decades, she decided to search for her grandfather's identity. Searching for her grandfather. In 1995, when Gail was 48 years old, she first searched for his identity using microfilm. In the beginning, she couldn't find him anywhere. Gail was about to give up on her search when she stumbled upon a chilling discovery. The results. Gail put in the 1900 Louisiana census records, and finally she found the name she was looking for, Azamar Frederick. There were also other Fredericks in the same column. When the woman started reading the information written next to their names, she noticed something strange. Strange finding. Next to all of their names was a letter B. Gail looked at the name of the row under which the letters were placed, and her heart nearly dropped when she realized the meaning behind them. The race. The name of the row was Color of Race. Gail was confused as she couldn't understand what the letter B meant. Then it hit her. Searching for more information. The letter B meant black. Gail wanted to confront her mother, but first she reached out to the state of Louisiana, requesting her mother's birth certificate. Requesting a birth certificate. Gail pretended to be her mother on the phone and said that she had lost her birth certificate. Soon after the phone call, she received the document. Gail couldn't believe her eyes when she read the information on the certificate. Strange letters. While Gail was reading her mother's birth certificate, she noticed the letters COL written under one section. The woman couldn't understand what those letters meant, so she wrote to the state again to ask for an explanation, asking for clarification. Gail asked the state of Louisiana to explain what the letters COL she noticed on her birth certificate stood for. Shortly after, she received an official letter back from the state. Gail gasped when she read the first paragraph. In the letter said COL is an abbreviation for the designation colored. Gail was speechless. She didn't know whether her mother knew about it. At first, Gail thought it was a mistake. However, as time went by, she started having more and more doubts about her mother's past. 2 long years. For the next 2 years, Gail couldn't stop thinking about her discovery. Millions of questions were running through her mind. Was her mother aware of the information she saw on her birth certificate? Was she hiding something? Why didn't she say anything? One day, Gail decided to confront her mother about it. Confronting her mother. After 2 years, Gail finally worked up the nerve to ask her mother about the birth certificate. One afternoon, she sat down with her and finally asked her the question that had been bothering her for years. Gail asked her why she was listed as COL on her birth certificate. Her mother's response made her jaw drop. The response. Gail explained to her mother that she found her birth certificate in which she was listed as colored. Her mother instantly became nervous and uncomfortable. She said, "I don't know what birth certificate you have, but mine says I'm white." Gail didn't believe her mother's words. She knew she had to find out the truth. So Gail asked her mother another question, digging for the truth. Gail calmly told her mother that she'd found some other documents as well, such as the census records, in which her grandfather was listed as black. She also explained to her mother that the letters COL written on her birth certificate she'd received from the state were for colored. Her mother got very quiet and then said something Gail would never forget. Her words. Gail's mother had a sad look in her eyes. She said, "You have to promise me you will never tell anyone until after I die." After a short pause, the woman added, "Because how will I hold my head up with my friends if they know?" Gail was at a loss for words. But then she discovered something even more heartbreaking about her mother's mysterious past. The sad truth. Suddenly, everything makes sense. Her strange makeup habit, being afraid of the sun, and her constant need to wear a hat and gloves outside. Gail's mother had been passing for white her whole life. Why was she pretending to be another race? Her secret. She did look white in her photos and in real life. However, her birth certificate clearly stated that she was black. As it turns out, her transition into a white woman started when she met Gail's father. The beginning. Gail's father was white. He wasn't aware of the fact that Elvira Rita was a black woman. When the couple decided to get married, Elvira took on the white race and moved to Ohio with her husband. From that moment on, Gail's mother began passing as a white woman. Gail was shocked. She felt like she didn't know who she was anymore, and what kind of family she was born into. Her grandparents. She also told Gail that her grandfather was African American and her grandmother was of a mixed race. Elvira Rita said that she had to cut her parents off to start her life as a white woman. What made her change her race? Gail's father. Gail's father was a typical white man of his generation. His views on life and opinion significantly differed from Elvira's. Gail would often hear her parents arguing because of something unacceptable her father said. While watching the television, he would often throw a racial slur. Elvira Rita knew her husband would never accept her if she were black, so she made her decision. After finishing her story, the woman asked Gail for one favor. Keeping her secret. Elvira Rita asked her daughter to keep her secret until her death. Gail kept her mother's secret for 17 years. She never told anyone about her mother's past. Gail tried asking Elvira Rita about her past on several occasions after she first learned about her mother's secret. However, she would immediately change the subject and ask Gail about her life instead. She refused to ever talk about it again, although Gail realized one important thing from her mother's story. The true reason. I know my mother wanted a better life for herself, and the way she saw that was to pass for white. She would have more opportunities for employment and in society in general. To do that, she had to turn her back on her mixed-race heritage and leave her family behind. It was a big sacrifice. She could never live her true, authentic self, said Gail. Gail's book. In 2017, after her mother had passed away, Gail Lukasik published her story in the book White Like Her, My Family's Story of Race and Racial Passing. In her book, Gail reveals her struggle with her mother's decision, how Elvira Rita hid her secret from her entire family, and the price that her mother had to pay for choosing whiteness.